There is a poison that spreads not through blood, but through words. It hides in criticism. It disguises itself as sarcasm. It rides quietly on the back of gossip and settles deep inside your heart before you even notice it. And once it's there, it doesn't just hurt. It transforms you. But what if you didn't have to carry it? What if you could take every insult, every betrayal, every harsh word that ever tried to break you, and instead of letting it harden your heart, you turned it into something sacred? This is not a lesson in being nice. This is a lesson in becoming untouchable. In the monastery, we are not taught to avoid pain. We are taught to use it, to purify it, to see it clearly, to turn every toxic moment into a test of our inner discipline. Because the one who reacts is ruled, but the one who watches. So ask yourself, when someone throws fire at you, will you become the flame? Or will you become the stillness that fire cannot touch? Let us begin. When someone pours poison into your cup, you do not have to drink it. The problem is, most people don't know how to set the cup down. You walk through the world and it doesn't take long to realize there is noise, there is envy, there is sarcasm hiding behind politeness. There are words sharp enough to leave invisible cuts. Someone mocks you. Someone judges without knowing you. Someone gossips about your name when you are not present to defend it. And in these moments, the fire inside you rises. Not because you are weak, you reach for the poison without even noticing. You believe that to protect your dignity, you must retaliate. You think that if you don't react, you are somehow smaller. But in truth, the fire you feed will always consume your peace first. The monks of the old temples were taught differently. When someone tried to provoke them, they were trained not to respond, not to see clearly. They were told, if a person offers you a gift and you do not accept it, who does it belong to? The answer is simple. It remains with the giver. This is how it is with hatred, insult, bitterness. If you do not pick it up, it does not become yours. But this discipline is not easy. The ego wants to defend itself. It wants to be right. It wants to win arguments and prove superiority. And so it drinks. It drinks the poison, hoping the other person will suffer. But poison never works that way. The one who swallows it is the one who breaks. You must understand this. So when someone is toxic toward you, what they release is not about you. It is the residue of their own suffering, their own insecurity, their own fear. Their reaction is a mirror reflecting their state, not your worth. But if you absorb that reaction, if you let it enter your bloodstream, then their suffering becomes your own. Or will you become the end of it? The monk breathes in. He feels the insult as it lands in the air around him. He observes the urge to respond. But he does not act. Because he understands silence is not passivity. It is clarity. His non-reaction is not weakness. It is power under control. People today think they must always defend themselves, speak back, prove their value through volume. But noise does not lead to truth. It only adds more chaos to the world. The river does not lose its way when a stone is thrown into it. It flows around it. It continues. It remains. You cannot stop people from being who they are. Some will speak from wounds they haven't healed. Others will harm you because they were harmed, and they do not yet see the cycle they are trapped in. But you can decide not to join the cycle. You can become the person who says, this pain ends here, with me. And that is not soft, that is sacred. In the temple, the warrior trains not just his body, but his mind, his emotions, his breath. Why? Because the greatest battle is not with the world, but with the self. When someone disrespects you, the battle is not with them. It is with your own reflex, your need to respond, your hunger for revenge. That is where mastery lies, not in how you control them, but in how you govern yourself. This is the beginning of inner power. When you can look at another person's chaos and choose not to let it enter your temple. When you can hear the insult and let it pass like wind through a bamboo forest, rustling the leaves, but never uprooting the roots. When you become grounded in your own peace so deeply that even the storms of others cannot disturb your sky. So the next time someone brings you their fire, do not become the flame. Be the still water that does not boil. Do not feed what will only grow stronger when noticed. Look at it, see it, and let it go. The world needs fewer echoes of pain and more guardians of peace. If you want to become strong, not just in body but in being, then begin here, with the discipline of not feeding what does not nourish your soul. Let them burn with noise if they must. You stay rooted in silence. That is the way of the monk. There is a story whispered in the mountain temples. A monk once walked through a busy village, silent, calm, his robe trailing through dust. A man, angry for reasons unknown, stepped forward and insulted him. Harsh words, piercing tone, aimed like arrows. The monk did not flinch. He simply bowed. The man, confused and boiling with fury, shouted louder, insulted again. And again the monk bowed, saying softly, "I do not accept what you give." And then he walked on. We do not often realize this truth in our daily lives. When someone insults you, they are not showing you who you are. They are revealing who they are. Their anger is a mirror that reflects their own inner war. But we make a mistake. We take their reflection and call it our own. We forget that not everything that touches our ears is meant to enter our hearts. It is common for people to speak from wounds they do not understand. A person burdened by jealousy will call your light arrogance. One trapped in fear may mark your courage. Someone drowning in their own self-judgment may project their doubt onto your decisions. When they speak, they are not describing you. They are confessing themselves. But to see this clearly requires stillness. A mind that is reactive will always take things personally. It will turn every word into a weapon and every comment into a wound. And yet, this is illusion. It is not what was said, it is what we believe about what was said. It is the meaning we attach, the stories we invent. The monk, however, does not invent stories. He breathes, he observes, he listens not to the noise but to the silence beneath it. There is a certain wisdom in not assuming that every emotion directed at you is yours to solve. Imagine standing in a field while a storm rages in the distance. You can hear it, you can see the lightning in the sky, but you are not in it. The mistake is running toward the storm, thinking you must fix it. Some people carry hurricanes inside them, but you do not need to become the wind. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is not to engage, not out of pride, not out of withdrawal, but out of compassion. Because you see the deeper layer. They are hurting. And when someone is hurting, they don't need another wound. They need space to see themselves. It is not easy to stand in front of someone's rage and remain still. But if you react, you merge with their storm. You become a part of it. You begin to carry it long after they've forgotten it. You replay their words at night, wonder what you could have said differently, hold imaginary arguments in your mind. This is how a few seconds of their pain becomes hours of your suffering. This is how we turn projections into prisons. But when you recognize the projection for what it is, a reflection of their state, not your identity, you become free. You see the situation not as a personal attack, but as a passing shadow on the wall. The monk doesn't try to fight the shadow, he simply turns toward the light. Compassion, in its deepest form, is not about doing something, it is about seeing clearly. Seeing that the person who lashes out is often asking for help in the only language they know. That anger is sometimes grief in armor. That silence is sometimes shame too deep to name. And when you can see this, even insults lose their sharpness. They become echoes, not edges. In the monastery, we are taught not to close our hearts to the one who offends us. Instead, we are taught to ask, what pain must this person be carrying to speak like this? This question changes everything. It turns resentments into understanding. It turns judgment into curiosity. It turns the enemy into a mirror. You are not what others say about you. You are not the tone in their voice, the emotion in their face, or the judgment in their eyes. You are the awareness, watching it all unfold. When someone speaks with hatred, you can hear it, feel it, and still remain untouched, like a mountain that does not tremble under. Let others speak their truth, even if their truth is twisted by fear or pain. You do not have to defend yourself against every shadow. Some things are not meant to be answered. They are meant to be witnessed and released. When someone throws a stone, let it fall to the ground. You are not here to catch what does not belong to you. This is not indifference, it is clarity. The same way the sky does not chase after every passing cloud, you must learn to let certain energies pass through you without resistance. The monk's way is not to suppress, it is to see, to breathe, and to remain anchored, not in the chaos of others, but in the silence within. To live without being mastered by every emotion. That is the quiet strength of the monk. The world outside is loud. Someone says something that stings. Someone ignores you, betrays you, questions your worth. The heart pounds, the chest tightens, the breath rises like a wave before a storm, and this is the moment that defines your path. Not the insult, not the betrayal, but what you do with the fire it sparks inside. In the monastery, we are not taught to suppress, we are taught to observe. When the mind is triggered, the breast becomes shallow, the body contracts, the thoughts race ahead like wild horses, but the monk, he remains still, because he sees what most cannot. He sees the gap between stimulus and response, and in that sacred space, he finds freedom. To train in detachment is not to numb yourself, it is to train your awareness so deeply that emotions no longer carry you away like a leaf in the wind. It is to become the root, the mountain, the unshakable presence in the middle of chaos. The goal is not to feel nothing, the goal is to feel everything. There is an old teaching, if you drop a stone into a still pond, the ripples reach the edge and return. But if the water is already stormy, no ripple is seen. A reactive mind is like turbulent water, unable to reflect, unable to see. A monk's mind is still, so when a disturbance comes, he sees it clearly. He knows whether the feeling is his or a shadow passing through. And in seeing it clearly, he does not have to act on it. We have become so conditioned to react, to speak quickly, to defend immediately, to prove constantly. But in this rush to act, we become slaves to our impulses. We forget the art of the pause. Yet all power lives in the pause, between the thought and the word, between the feeling and the action, between the noise and the response. Detachment is not coldness, it is compassion held in stillness. It is the realization that your energy is too sacred to be wasted in every battle, every argument, every emotional tug-of-war. The monk sees the wave rising within him, anger, fear, sorrow, but he does not ride it. He watches it crest and fall. Sometimes people say, but I cannot help it. That's just how I feel. And yet that is the very point of training. A wild horse cannot help but run until it is trained. The mind too must be trained. You must sit with it, breathe with it, and teach it that not everything deserves a reaction. You must watch your triggers the way a sentry watches a gate. There is no need to force a smile when your heart is burning, but there is wisdom in knowing that you are not the fire. You are the space it burns in. You are not your anger. You are not your sorrow. You are the awareness behind it all, the observer who notices, who witnesses, who remains. And in this awareness, you reclaim the power that the world keeps trying to steal with every insult, every distraction, every provocation. Think of the bamboo in the storm. It bends, but it does not break. It does not fight the wind, nor does it run from it. It flows, it yields. But when the storm is over, it stands again, quiet, tall, unbroken. This is the strength of emotional discipline. Not the strength to strike back, but the strength to remain whole. Train yourself in the art of non-reaction. Not to become distant from life, but to live more deeply in it. So that every word, every emotion, every situation passes through you like wind through an open temple. Felt, noticed, but never trapped. Breathe. Wait. Watch. The world will rush you to respond. But peace waits in stillness. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to do nothing. Compassion is often mistaken for softness, for weakness, for letting people walk over you while you smile and stay silent. But this misunderstanding only comes from those who have never practiced true compassion. Because real compassion is not passive, it is powerful. It does not come from fear of conflict, it comes from mastery of the self. The monk who forgives an insult is not doing so because he is afraid. He does it because he sees clearly. He does not return fire for fire because he knows that every flame fed becomes a wildfire. And he knows this. Just because something burns brightly does not mean it is wise to touch it. Compassion is not a reaction, it is a choice, one that arises when you have every reason to strike back, but you don't. To respond with compassion when others bring you their anger, their resentment, their bitterness. That is not weakness, it is precision. It is control, it is understanding that responding in kind only multiplies the suffering in the world. And a monk's path is to subtract suffering, not add to it. When someone throws sharp words at you, they are giving you their pain dressed as power. And if you take it, if you return it, then you both bleed. But if you hold it gently in your awareness, if you see their suffering without absorbing it, you dissolve it without violence. You bring peace into a moment that was begging for more noise. This is the deeper layer of compassion. It is not just a feeling, it is a way of seeing. It is the quiet knowing that everyone, even the one who insults you, is fighting a silent battle. And often they do not know how to fight except by striking others. Compassion says, I will not be another wound in your life. I will not continue the cycle that has hurt you. It is easier to be kind to those who are kind. But the discipline begins when you face someone who is not. When you are insulted, ignored, misunderstood. These are the real tests. And how you act in these moments reveals your inner training. It shows whether your peace is conditional or absolute, whether your strength is loud or still. In the monastery, we are taught that compassion is like water. It flows, it yields, but it carves stone over time. Water does not rush to overpower. It finds the lowest place and rests there, and in that rest it transforms. So too with compassion. It lowers the walls, it softens the hardest hearts. Not by force, but by presence. Some people believe that if they do not fight back, they lose. But what do they lose? A contest of noise? An argument that leads nowhere? The monk knows that to win is not to defeat the other, it is to remain undefeated within. To preserve your stillness, your clarity, your kindness even in the face of cruelty, that is victory. Compassion also protects. It protects you from becoming like those who harm you. It shields your spirit from the toxic pull of vengeance, and it allows you to walk through the world without carrying the weight of every wound thrown at you. Because once you realize that another's behavior is a reflection of their pain, not your value, you begin to see with different eyes. You begin to understand, and in that understanding, you are free. You do not need to pretend that pain does not hurt, but you can choose what to do with it. You can break others with it, or you can build something sacred from it. That is the difference between reaction and compassion. One continues the storm, the other becomes the eye of it. There is no glory in being cold, but there is great wisdom in being warm without being burned. Compassion is not saying yes to everything, it is saying yes to your peace, even if that means saying no to revenge, to rage, to resentment. Compassion is the warrior's practice, the daily decision to stand in the fire and remain unchanged. In this life, you will be challenged, you will be tested, not by grand enemies, but by small moments. A rude stranger, a friend who betrays, a silence that cuts deeper than words. And it is in these quiet moments that you choose. Will I mirror their pain, or will I become the light they forgot existed? The monk's way is to become that light, not by force, not by words, but by being. Compassion, lived in silence, speaks louder than any reply, and some hearts, even the most hardened, are waiting to hear it. Pain is not the enemy. The enemy is what we choose to become because of it. When someone disrespects you, betrays you, or tries to harm your spirit with their words or actions, the pain is real. You feel it like a sting beneath the skin, like a flame brushing against the edges of your patience. But that moment, the very moment when the pain enters, is sacred, because it is there that you are handed a choice. A quiet, invisible offering. Will you become the fort? In the old temples, monks do not run from pain. They sit with it, they breathe through it, they let it speak. Not so they can obey its cries, but so they can understand its message. Pain is a messenger. It reveals where you are still clinging. It shows you where your ego is too loud, where your expectations have not yet bowed to reality. But most people don't listen. They try to silence the pain, they numb it, fight it, they blame others for it. And in doing so, they miss the transformation waiting inside. Transformation does not come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from entering it, like entering a forest at night. No path, no certainty, only breath and step. The monk walks into the unknown, not because he enjoys suffering, but because he knows that what lies on the other side is strength that cannot be taken away. Every insult becomes a sharpening stone. Every wound becomes a lesson written not in words, but in silence. When you sit in stillness and let pain rise without reacting, you begin to see it for what it truly is. Energy. Energy that can be shaped. Anger, if held with awareness, becomes clarity. Betrayal, when studied deeply, becomes boundary. Rejection, if faced with openness, becomes redirection. The world will not stop wounding you, but it cannot stop you from turning those wounds into wisdom. The breath is the first tool. It anchors you in the present. When the heart aches and the mind rushes, the breath remains. Slow, grounded, patient, like a mountain inhaling the sky. Inhale and you gather the fire. Exhale and you cool the flame, over and over, until the emotion no longer owns you, until it has nothing left to burn. A monk once said, "Do not waste your suffering, because suffering, when carried unconsciously, becomes poison. But suffering, when met with attention, becomes alchemy. You begin to purify it, not by forcing it away, but by letting it show you what is still raw, what is still growing, what still fears being seen." In this way, you do not just heal. Think of a tree struck by lightning, scarred, split, burnt, but still it stands. And from that scar, sometimes a stronger branch grows, not in spite of the damage, but because of it. So too with the human spirit. We grow in the broken places, not when we deny them, but when we care for them with fierce honesty. To transform pain into purpose is to say, "I will not let this define me, but I will let it refine me. I will take this moment of darkness and sit with it until it teaches me how to create light." This is the quiet work of the monk, not seen by others, not celebrated, but powerful beyond measure. Because in the end, you cannot control what others do, but you can carry their cruelty like a burden, or you can use it to carve space for your own strength. Even in the midst of suffering, the monk does not ask, "Why me?" He asks, "What now?" Not from hopelessness, but from trust. Trust that every moment, even the painful ones, contains a gate into deeper understanding, into fuller presence, into unmoving peace. And this gate cannot be forced open. It opens only with patience, with presence, with breath. So when you are hurt deeply, unfairly, pause. Before you react, before you respond, before you harden, ask yourself, is this a wound I will carry or a lesson I will learn? Will I let this make me bitter, or will I let it make me better? The answers do not come quickly, but if you are willing to wait, to breathe, to trust the fire without fearing it, something real. And from that place, you begin again. Every day you wake up, you are given a simple invitation to carry the world's chaos or to carry your own clarity. People often speak of compassion as if it is a single act, a moment of kindness, a soft reply, a gentle smile in the face of someone's anger. But for the monk, compassion is not a moment, it is not a mood, it is a discipline, something you return to not once, but again and again, like sweeping the same floor every morning, knowing the dust will settle again by evening. It will. The question is whether you are willing to choose your practice every time. Some mornings you will feel calm. On others, your heart may be heavy, unsettled by things beyond your control. A stranger's words, a friend's silence, the thousand unseen tensions that arise without warning. And yet, the monk still rises, still walks, still breathes the same way. Because peace is not a feeling, it is a commitment. One you keep even when it feels furthest from reach. The world pulls at you constantly. It wants you to react, to rush, to defend, to explain. But the monk does not waste energy explaining to those committed to misunderstanding. He understands something deeper, that the moment you react without awareness, you hand your inner power to the very thing that disturbs you. So instead, he trains, not with grand gestures, but in the smallest ways. This path requires devotion, not to others, but to your own inner stillness. It means remembering that your presence is your temple, and every day you decide whether to open its doors to anger, noise and doubt, or to silence, strength and clarity. And that decision is not made once, it is made 100 times a day, in moments no one else sees. When someone interrupts you, do you meet them with tension or patience? When someone disrespects you, do you mirror their energy or return to your breath? These small choices are not small. They are the path. There is an old saying, the axe forgets, the tree remembers. When someone harms you, they may forget, but your spirit will carry it unless you release it. And release is not weakness, Release is refusing to carry what does not belong to you. This is the monk's discipline: to open without becoming exposed, to stay open without becoming exposed, to protect the peace without building a wall. You do not need the world to be kind for you to remain kind. That is the highest practice. To walk through the fire and not catch flame, to let people be who they are without letting them decide who you will become. Each morning you rise, you recommit to this, not as a performance, not as a moral achievement, but as a necessity for your own well-being. And if you do not tend to your own garden, you will begin to grow whatever seeds the world throws at your feet. Compassion must be chosen, like the monk chooses to light incense before meditation, with intention, with consistency, even when the room already smells of smoke. Because the ritual is not for the room. To walk this path is to let others rage and still be gentle, to let others misunderstand and still remain centered, to let the world be loud while you practice the art of stillness. There will always be temptations to return to the old ways, to snap back, to shut down, to carry resentment like a shield. But the monk knows that shields become burdens when carried too long. They protect, yes, but they also weigh down the soul. So you choose again. You sit, you breathe, you return to the discipline, not because it is easy, but because it is the only way to stay free in a world full of chains, disguised as reactions. You don't become compassionate by accident. You become compassionate by walking through the fires of your own emotion and choosing not to let them burn others. This is your training, this is your path, and it begins. And now, as the breath softens and the noise fades, let us return to the stillness from which we began. You have walked through fire, through insult, projection, silence, rage. You have stood where others collapse, sat with pain where most would run. And in that quiet space between reaction and response, you discover something few ever find. The strength not to mirror the world but to light it. To choose compassion when you have every reason not to. This is the way of the monk. To hold space for others without letting their shadows take root in you. To remain open without being exposed. To feel deeply but not drowned. This is not softness, this is sacred. There is a Zen saying, when the mind is still, the truth is revealed. No sword is needed, no defense is required. The deepest victories happen not in battle, but in the refusal to become what wounded you. So now I offer you this. When the world tries to hand you its anger, will you hold it? Or will you let it fall? When others show you their pain disguised as cruelty, will you answer with echo or with emptiness? And when the fire comes again in it, will you burn or will you bow? Carry this silence with you like a hidden lamp. Let it guide your breath in crowded places. Let it cool your spirit when the heat of insult rises. Let it remind you that your peace is not given by others, and so it cannot be taken by them. Close your eyes now. Breathe, not to escape the world, but to re-enter it with deeper presence. You are not here to absorb the world's pain. You are here to end its cycle. Do not seek the truth. Only cease to cherish opinions. Let go and walk on